of this year was so far a success and a failure. Let me explain. Every company has had a successful film. Yes, even Disney, surprisingly. As we all know, Disney has been had flop after flop after flop after flop. But these are the 10 most successful movies of the year. Uncharted, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore, Thor: Love and Thunder, The Batman, Beauty and the Rise of Gru, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and Jurassic World Dominion, and Top Gun Maverick. All of these are a part of a franchise. But Uncharted isn't. Uncharted is based off a video game franchise. So, outside of Watergate Bridge, which is a Chinese film, which only released in China basically, that means the top 10 would be Elvis, Uncharted, Sonic 2, and yeah, basically about Watergate Bridge. Basically, the top 10 highest grossing movies besides Elvis are franchise movies, and this is a problem. And people have been talking about this for a while. But and of course, one of the most popular ones is Martin Scorsese blaming Marvel movies for this phenomenon. But it's not just Marvel, as we all know. Jurassic World Dominion, as well, and Minions, and The Batman. Yeah, I like these movies just as much as anybody else. Not Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, but if you talk about movies that are comparable to Doctor Strange, go all the way down here, you'll find a movie called Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's at 26th in the worldwide box office, and $97 million made worldwide. That is actually pretty good for a movie that had a budget of like $20 million or so, but it wasn't a really huge financial success compared to Doctor Strange, which made $500 million, but Everything Everywhere All at Once made like $20 to $40 million. And most of these movies tend to become super hits over time, and called classics, because people refuse to go see movies in the theaters. I don't watch movies in the theaters, but I'm talking about people who go see movies in the theaters. Okay, they refuse to see movies like Everything Everywhere All at Once, but will go and see the same Marvel movie over and over and over and over again. Okay, or we go for down. You have The Northman, a box office failure, and most of these movies are franchise movies. Right? Yeah, franchise movie. And basically, the reason why the box office has not done so well worldwide is because Hollywood has been over reliant on the franchise to get people to be excited for. Back in the 80s and 70s, you didn't have the franchise movies. And in the 90s as well, and even the early 2000s, you didn't have the huge franchises. The movie directors were willing to try something new, and because there weren't any huge franchises that, pump out movies yearly, like Star Wars, Marvel, Jurassic Park / World, or it's called the Jurassic series now, because apparently they're getting more Jurassic movies, and of course now the typical Me / Minions, and other huge franchises. Well, these non-franchise movies are tossed to the side. A movie like Bullet Train was tossed to August, which is typically a horrible month to release in movies. With the Suicide Squad so paid the price for at. Or a movie like Free Guy didn't really do too well compared to other movies. A movie like The Lost City released in March, and people were saying that the movie's gonna flop. It was guaranteed to flop and bomb at the box office, cause it's not a problem. It's not Batman. It's not Marvel. It's gonna flop. Okay, and that is because the modern movie-going audience refuses to watch movies that are not part of franchise, as well. Which is going to be very hard for movie theaters to stomach this, because there's nothing coming out basically over the next months, because it's just non-franchise movies. Because all people want to see is the next adaptation or the next big franchise movie. That's all the box office is now. Okay, and that is the problem. Movies like Ambulance, which got good reviews, bombed at the box office. And there are some bad movies that did bomb. The 355 bombed. The complete bad movie, or Paws of Furies, or movies like Paws of Fury. But a lot of these movies that didn't really make that much money are non-franchise movies. Again, not all of these movies really got good reviews, and movies that did get good reviews actually had significantly good ratings. Movies like The Bad Guys, Elvis, and Everything Everywhere All at Once, and The Lost City had extremely good ratings at the box office. Franchise movies are also not known for having good ratings at the box office. Lightyear, Sonic, and Jurassic World Dominion, and both Doctor Strange and Ford and Fantastic Beasts all didn't have good ratings at the box office. The only exception to this rule is Top Gun Maverick. Well, basically, since Top Gun released like 30 years ago, it almost feels like you're watching a new movie, even though it's supposed to be a sequel to Top Gun. And there's now guys set it up into a franchise, of course, because of how well it done at the box office. Seems like a pure cash grab for me, which means they could probably make a Top Gun 3 or, Tom Cruise's character Maverick basically passes down the torch to someone new so they can continue the success of the Top Gun universe. And really, and if you look at 2021's box office, you see that it's basically a similar thing. Okay, Spider-Man, Fast and the Furious, Venom, which is part of the Spider-Man universe, Godzilla, Sing, Eternals, Dune, actually Dune's a book adaptation, but yeah, Dune, Black Widow, and the highest grossing movie that is not a part of a franchise is Free Guy. So non-franchise movies have been making somewhat of a comeback, but a movie like Encanto, which again, I don't think people really cared about the movie until it came out on Disney Plus. Again, the reason why Encanto bombed in theaters was not because the movie was bad or good. It's because, one, the pandemic was going into the Omicron phase, but then it was mad because Spider-Man made so much money. It does people didn't really want to see the movie. And really, Spider-Man No Way Home really brought back the huge grosses that the box office is known for. But a movie like Encanto, people didn't really have any interest in seeing the movie. I think that's the real diss of it all. Movies like Jungle Cruise didn't really do too well. Ghostbusters that side. But then we have the 2019's box office. And 2019's box office is the epitome of this. The top 10 highest grossing movies of the year. Okay, Avengers Endgame, MCU, Lion King, remake of an old movie. Frozen 2, sequel. Spider-Man Far From Home, part of the MCU. Captain Marvel, MCU. Joker, DC property. Star Wars, sequel. Toy Story 4, sequel. Aladdin, remake and Jumanji, sequel. And the highest grossing non-franchise movie is Alita Battle Angel does not count because it's based off a manga. But if you really want to count that, the highest grossing non-franchise movie is 1917. If you exclude all the Chinese movies that were released during the year, like The Wandering Earth and Nisa. But yep, the highest grossing non-franchise movies are around Free Guys almost. 1917 and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Both not part of a franchise. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a pretty overrated movie, but 1917 was a movie that is worth seeing. Definitely. But since it has made money, but sadly, it doesn't make nearly as much money as every franchise movie usually does. And you go further down the list, you had Knives Out, a super hit. And you had Us. And then you had Ford v Ferrari, which didn't really do too well for a movie that cost $100 million to make. And Rocketman. And Abominable. Yeah, most of these are either adaptations, sequels, prequels, or remakes. Okay? So, yeah. And if we talk about adaptations, The Bad Guy is actually an adaptation of a children's book. Which means The Bad Guys technically sort of count as a franchise. But we're not going to count The Bad Guys as a franchise. That means the highest grossing non-franchise movie that hasn't had a startup in the film series, if we're not counting adaptations, would be Alita Battle Angel and Pokemon Detective Pikachu. But Pokemon is so popular that it's a part of a franchise. Alita is an unknown IP and property that did pretty well, so that means Alita would be the highest grossing non-franchise movie of 2019, which didn't even make the top 20, as a bunch of Chinese movies like The Captain, My People, My Country, which are both Chinese and non-franchise movies. But if we're talking about American movies, yeah, Alita made the top 20, Only 1917 and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, if you exclude all the non-franchise, or all of the massive, Chinese box office movies. Then we have 2018's box office. Okay, we have 2018's box office, and the highest grossing non-franchise movie of that year is Bohemian Rhapsody, undisputedly. Which again, all the other movies in the top 10 are part of a franchise. If we go to 2017, which had one of the worst summer years for the box office, this ever, all of the movies in the top 10, besides which even Wolf Warrior 2 is a part of a franchise. Which means the highest grossing non-franchise movie didn't make the top 10, which was Coco. With Bohemian Rhapsody were the last two franchise movies to even make $800 million at the box office. Yep, Bohemian Rhapsody and Coco were the last two franchise movies, non-franchise movies, to make $800 million at the box office. The rest of the highest grossing movies besides Boss Baby and Dunkirk were franchise movies, part of a franchise and ongoing series. Or remake, reboot, retelling, and blah 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 blah. So yeah. Basically in 2022, yeah. Non-franchise movies have basically failed just as well as they have every other year. Elvis and the Bad Guys did pretty well. And yeah, the Bad Guys is based off a, kid's book. But I didn't eat. Most people probably even know it was based off a kid's book. So yeah, people probably thought, oh yeah, it's like Despicable Me and looks like Megamind. You might want to see the movie. It's about Villain Redemption's story, obviously, which is technically spoiling the movie, but that's basically the whole point of the movie. Is that it's a villain redemption movie about a group of villains who become good, basically. And movies like The Lost City and Everything Everywhere All at Once had extremely good reception along the film community, but again, the box office, they had extremely good rigs despite the bad openings at the box office. Maybe by the end of this decade, we'll see the non-franchise movies topple the franchise. That is extremely unlikely to happen because a lot of non-franchise movies typically get bad reviews, and the ones that get good reviews are the ones that make money, ironically, like Elvis and the Bad Guys. And this is the reason why they tend to make less money, especially if they get bad reviews. Because people are not going to say, oh yeah, this looks generic, or this looks bad, or oh, they're setting up a franchise or something, and people don't want to see it. The modern day film audience is a very, very, very tricky fellow to deal with. And if a movie doesn't look interesting to someone, they're not going to want to see it. And let's not forget that people have to spend their money. And what are they going to spend the money towards? The same franchises that they've been waiting to see and being excited to see for years. Like Jurassic Park and Top Gun. And Top Gun was actually expected to gross lower than Doctor Strange. But it actually outgrossed Doctor Strange at the box office. And I think Top Gun is one of those rare movies. Top Gun is a part of a franchise, but I think there was something more to Top Gun than it being a part of a franchise, which is the reason why it's so successful at the box office. And maybe people just want to see good movies at the very end, whereas Top Gun Maverick had extremely good reviews by everybody. Yes, even the ungrateful critics who will give, anything that isn't Disney a bad review. That's basically about this video. Goodbye.